When I saw that the Four Horsemen Invitational for this month was a build of the old Hot Wheels Shelby Cobra, I went digging through my castings. I found this old Blackwall Hot Wheels Cobra. As you see here, metal body, metal base, opening hood. Later ones don't have the opening hood. And figured I'd do this. The theme for this invitational is Old NASCAR. So I thought I'd do 60s NASCAR, because that's old. As you see there, it has a plastic interior, separate piece of glass that's held in there in a rather interesting way. It's nothing fancy, but just the way they did a little hook on the glass, on that plastic to keep it in place, really works well. This casting is somewhat abused. There's some chips off of it in different places, and we'll address that in a bit. But there's only one post on this variation. It's my understanding that the ones without the opening hood have two posts. But this has the one post at the back, and then the front grille punches through a hole. The front grille's on the base, and it punches through a hole in the front of the upper half of the body. So the post is nice and big. I use a 256 screw on this thing. Drilled it, tapped it, and there you see the 256 by 1/8 screw. You can kind of see there it's stripped, and you can tell that casting's a little rough. It's far from the smoothest casting around. But got it drilled, tapped, got the screw into it, and I'm all set to move on. So I took a good look at the body, and yes, I filed off some of the casting lines, but there were some areas that just needed a little more help. In other words, some areas that needed to be filled in a little bit. And so busted out the JB Weld. You know how much I love JB Weld. And so, believe it or not, I did find a way to use it on the casting. In very small amounts, I used an X-Acto knife to fill in some areas that there were voids in how it was made. And so where casting lines came together in some areas, like right there where you see me doing that, there were just some empty voids that needed to be filled. And then there was just this little notch on the back of the hood that I needed to fill in. And so they were nothing major. There are some things on the body that I just couldn't get perfect. I couldn't get them exactly the way I wanted, but I was still pretty happy with the results. There's so many curves, and this is such a beautiful body on this car, but there's some areas that are just tough to get into with a file. There's just some things that my fat hands and fat files, and even no matter how small they are, it seemed like no matter how I would work them, I just couldn't get them perfect. But maybe that's just stupid, trying to get them to be perfect. Or what I thought would be perfect. That's probably a better way to put it. This turns out... sneak comment about what's to come. I'm still pretty happy with how this turns out. Don't get me wrong. Spoiler alert. There we go. But I file it down as much as I can. I'm not doing like a Spectraflame paint job on this. I'm thinking 60s NASCAR is what I'm going for. And that has kind of a specific look in my mind. I did look at a bunch of pictures online for reference. So I kind of knew the direction I'd want to go. So I made up a decal set for this. Very simple decals, as you can see there. Just large numbers, some wording, horsepower rating, which I love that they threw that on the hood. It wasn't cubic inches, it was horsepower that they would throw on decals or on logos on the hood. 61 is just one of my favorite numbers to throw on a car. And so I went with that. It in no way means that I'm thinking this is the 61 year model of this car or something like that, or trying to represent a car racing in 1961. I just love throwing the number 61 on cars. And if you've seen previous builds of mine, you've seen that number before. So I thought, put a big number on the back. I would have put a big number on the roof if there had been a roof. But there's not. Threw numbers on the door. I made them, red numbers with black outlines against a white paint job. And I just love that. And one of the images I saw of a car that was racing in NASCAR in the 60s had that kind of look. So there you see it. I did dig out some sponsor labels, sponsor decals that I had laying around. Threw a few of those on there too, but didn't get too carried away with it. I did dig out some Steely wheels, Real Rider Steelies. Those are from the Real Riders packs that Hot Wheels was selling. They might be sold out of this set by now. This was set number 1. These are the large Steelies from that set. I stripped the Real Riders off of the wheels because I want to strip the paint off of those. I want to get rid of that chrome. And I couldn't choose a direction. I was thinking about red for the wheels. Then I thought about white for the wheels. Thought about red again for the wheels. Looked at some more images online. Settled on white for the wheels. So I do, after stripping the chrome off, paint these white. Then throw the tires back on. And this is easy enough to do. I throw that in super clean to get rid of the chrome. Didn't need to adjust the size. Size works fine. This thing rolls like a champ with these big steelies on it. And what I use here, I just super glue these in place. Super easy to do. I cleaned out the channel from before where the wheels were. Got the axle area cleared out. Threw that down with CA glue. And use a kick-it accelerator on this thing to set the CA glue. I did paint the grill black. You might be able to see that at the right of the front of the casting base there. Busted out the flits. Had to clean the windshield. Windshield was remarkably in good shape for this being an old casting. Used and abused. It was in decent shape. It just needed to be cleaned up a little bit. That made me really happy. Oddly enough, I had like 2 or 3 of these castings laying around, different versions of it. And the glass on all of them was pretty good, which for a windshield that's just sticking up there with really no protection is kind of surprising. But worked out great. Once I had it cleaned up, I had to throw it in the gauzy. Because why not? Made it nice. I used a clamp to hold the base of that windshield that isn't seen on the final product. So I didn't need to dip that area in gauzy. I could use it completely to hold this glass. After wicking off the excess, I didn't take that off. I kept holding it in that clamp, basically. And I even keep it in that clamp in the little protective cover I throw over it. Because all you're trying to do is keep stuff from falling on that, dust. So that worked out fine. The interior, which is plastic, I hit with, I did some very light detailing, as you can see there, like the steering wheel, the roll bar. And then I hit it with gloss clear. The Worth gloss lacquer that I use so many times. I hit it with that because I wanted to put these seatbelt decals down. And decals always work best on clear. And this is obviously accelerated a little bit. I did choose to use red seatbelts because I thought that would look great with the red numbers. Which then took me back to thinking about doing the wheels red, to be honest with you. But I thought it would detract from it. And you'll see, I'm pretty happy with the white wheels. I think red would have taken away from the finished product. It would have almost been distracting in a way. And so there you see the seat belts on it. Once the seat belts had dried, once those decals had set, and I did use microsol on that to get them to suck down to those seats well. And there you see it at that point. I didn't want those seats to be glossy, and I wanted to keep the decals in place. So I got out the AK matte varnish. Love this stuff. This comes in really handy a lot of times, particularly on tiny little decals. If you just want to set them in place, maybe after you've done a build and you want to add something, like a license plate. The AK matte varnish is handy for sealing in those decals and giving a matte finish to any area. So in this case, I paint it over the seats entirely. And it kind of looks like white glue in a way, just a little thinner when you're using it. But it works wonderfully, easy to apply. That bottle, Lord knows how long I've had it, but it lasts a long time. I did do some very light detailing to the engine as well. There you see taillights, blacked out the headlights. The engine, I basically just went over with Nuln Oil. I did do a little black paint in there as well with a toothpick. There's a better look at the white steely wheels. But at this point, it's done. Just need to snap that glass into place. I think there were better ways they could have built this to make the windshield more attractive in how it's held there, as opposed to the notch. But as far as it holding in place, I think they did an excellent job on that. It's a very secure hold for that windshield. Drop the interior in. Liked how that looked. And now I just need to get that black front grille into the front hole and the hole at the back of the base over the post. Again, metal base. And I didn't see any real reason. I did polish the base and then hit it with clear. I mean, cleaned up the base. Polishing it is sounding like a lot more than I did. I basically went over it with a buffing wheel to really clean it up. Went over that with the Worth clear lacquer. After the decals had set on the body is painted with Krylon specialty lacquer. It's a rattle can in white. And then I hit it with the Worth clear lacquer spray, which is also a rattle can. Both of those you've seen me use them before. So there's the original casting. And you can tell it's a little roughed up here and there. Nothing terrible. Nice looking car, you know. The windshield, I like it and I don't like it. But all in all, you know, it's a nice looking car. And then I just wanted to give it that 60s NASCAR look. Being Old NASCAR, again, is the Four Horsemen theme for the build. And I think I accomplished it. I didn't go crazy with the sponsor decals. I saw wide variations on 60s NASCAR from some cars that were loaded with sponsor images, and then some that had very few. And I just thought, Carroll Shelby would go very few probably. And I did have to look up the horsepower of the engine to get that right. But all in all, I'm pretty darn happy with this build. I hope you like it too. I'd like to thank the Four Horsemen for hosting this event. This was fun. This was a lot of fun. And please check out all the other builds in this Invitational. And I'm sure they're going to be putting a recap video up on the Four Horsemen YouTube channel. So there's a little better look at the engine, what I did there. But a few more glamour shots. Everybody, thanks for watching these videos. Stay safe and healthy out there. And I'll catch you in the next one.